Welcome to my Mini Electric long-term ownership review. Having taken delivery of this vehicle in May 2022, in this video, I'm going to be talking about ownership costs, I'm going to be talking about charging, range, and essentially, does this vehicle still stack up in 2025? Keep watching to find out. So the first question is, why did you decide to go electric, and is this your first EV? This is my first electric car, yes, and the reason why I went electric is that I work in the automotive industry and I have a very EV specific role. I didn't want to be driving a petrol or diesel car and just reading from a manual or watching lots of YouTube videos and trying to help customers make that transition to electric. Essentially, I wanted to purchase an EV because I could then relay all of the experiences that a customer would experience: charging, home charging, public charging, EV tariffs, EV insurance, like you name it, all of those things. I wanted to have done that myself so that I could actually relay that to customers. So for me, owning an EV was a total no-brainer. So the second question is, what have you loved about going electric? Well, let's just start off with energy recuperation. This car has a high level of energy recuperation, essentially one pedal driving, which I can bring this vehicle to a complete stop just using one pedal. I tend to use that on A roads and B roads. It's just super stress-free, like it's so easy to drive. The low energy recuperation mode I use on dual carriageways and motorways. And essentially what that means is if I come off the accelerator pedal, it's not pulling me back, it's almost coasting. And I think sometimes using one pedal on motorways and dual carriageways can be a little bit counterintuitive. So if you're, say, driving at 70 miles an hour and you're coming into a 50 zone, if you come off the accelerator pedal a little bit too quickly using one pedal, what will happen is the vehicle will kind of pull back because its whole purpose is to brake, and then you're having to use more energy to get back to where you should be. So that's essentially why I use and what I use on A roads and B roads, and then on the motorway and dual carriageway. So I really love that aspect. I think from a recall perspective, this has been really headache free, if I'm honest. Within the first couple of weeks, I had an indicator scuttle that had some moisture in it. Essentially, some drivers came to my work and brought it back the same day. It was so easy, I didn't have to do anything. There was also the charge flap error, which is very common for this car. So essentially you close the charge flap, but a little message on your digital display would say that it's open, and that drove me mad. And it got to a point where I'm just like, is it closed, is it not? That all got sorted, no problem. And then the final one was it was essentially a letter that was taken very seriously. There was a potential problem with the seal around the battery pack letting moisture in, I believe. My car, nothing wrong with it at all, got looked at, end of, absolutely no issue. So really pleased with that. And I've been to the garage like literally twice, I think, for things outside of what you would have ordinarily expected. Very headache free in a 3.5 year ownership. But here's the thing, I want to talk about charging costs because I want to really get into that right now. So in my 3.5 years of ownership, in my first year, I did 87% of my overall charging at home, and that cost me £83.09. In 2023, 96% of my overall charging was done at home, and that cost me £241.78. In 2024, again, 96% of my overall charging done at home, that cost me £234.85. And then in 2025, up until my charge last night, 99% of my overall charging was done at home, and that cost me £105. Now, before I give you an actual total cost of charging, it is worth noting that in 2023 and 2024, I did a massive commute to work, 32 miles to work and 32 miles back. I was charging every single night, which is why you see that huge spike on those 2 years. But for nearly 36,000 miles of driving, it has cost me at home £664.72. That's it. That is pretty incredible. And if there's one thing that I would always recommend customers who are thinking about going to electric to consider, if you can charge at home and you have a driveway, just think about those numbers. That is absolutely wild. The next question is, which features have you enjoyed most about your Mini? And that includes interior and exterior. Now, there are a few that I've picked up on. I have made a couple of notes because there are just some general things that I'd love to kind of bring to your attention. I loved Apple CarPlay integration. I know you've got this really big circular screen in the middle here, which kind of harks back to the original Mini. It doesn't take up that full circle, which is quite annoying, but I do like the fact that this rectangular screen is taken up by the whole Apple CarPlay display. Really, really clear, love the graphics, and it's very easy to use on the move. These seats are absolutely amazing. So it looks like they've barely been sat in my 36 to 37,000 miles in this car, still really, really like huggy and sporty. It just really does promote you to push on when the time is right. I love the fact that there's lots of physical buttons around this car as well. Lots of contact with the car, which I really enjoy. It just gives you that confidence to know that once you press the button, things are actually happening rather than wondering when you're pressing the screen all the time. I do like the physical button aspect. It looks like a Mini, which is great. My personal specification has some yellow elements around the car, which does denote its electric powertrain, but I quite like that, and that was very, very deliberate. Other than that, I mean, I've had this vehicle PPF, so paint protection film, pretty much all around this car. So we've got the start at the front, bumper, bonnet, lights, we've got the pillars, we've got the wings, we've got inside the doors, we've got the wing mirror caps, and due to cats landing on my roof, which is not great, I've had the pillars both front and back, and also the roof PPF'd as well. So this car is fully protected, and you can't tell that this car has done nearly 37,000 miles. Absolutely awesome. Because this car is going back, and I will talk to you about that right at the end, there are some things that I've had removed, ready for it to go back. So I had a sun strip along the front, which I absolutely adored. Awesome for that low light, especially when the sun, is going down, and when the light's starting to disappear a little bit, when that sun's in that really awkward place, that sun strip is absolutely awesome. I've had my dash cam removed as well. It's all starting to feel like it's no longer my car, and that is really sad. I've had my private registration taken off the car as well, which I'm going to talk about later. But for me, I just think that there have been some epic things with this car that I've really been able to personalize. I've also loved the cabin and battery preconditioning element of this, being able to pre-warm my car in the winter so that my heated seats are on, the cabin's nice and warm, it's got a heat pump as standard, love that, super efficient in the winter. And I've also loved when you're plugged in and you're telling the car when you're ready to go that it's actually pre-warming the battery as well, love all of that. Finally, I've actually loved that this vehicle's had an interior wrap as well. That is I've never done this before. So part of the panels here have all been wrapped, and the charge flap on the outside, the little E, has been wrapped in the same color as what you find on the interior. So bringing that outside, inside, it's just allowed me to personalize this car so much more. There's no other vehicle like mine on the road, and I think that's kind of the Mini ethos. I just love the fact that you can go to these lengths and just make it look and feel really, really special. My next question is, are there any features which you haven't enjoyed or have frustrated you? Yes. I talked about how I loved the physical buttons and the toggles inside this vehicle. I do love them, but what I don't love is the fact that my energy recuperation toggle is out of sight. So I actually have to look away from the road and press that. Really awkward. As are the drive modes. I've driven some amazing cars on my YouTube channel, and a lot of these things now are very accessible, especially if they're on the steering wheel. I'm having to look down and away from the car, which is not ideal. The other thing that I haven't enjoyed is there is no light really in the charge flap or the charging area of my car. I've been to several public charging locations where I've actually had to shine my torch from my phone onto the charger itself to actually be able to plug in. That is not cool either. I think the big one that I haven't enjoyed is the integration with Intelligent Octopus Go. That's the tariff that I'm on with Octopus Energy. I just haven't enjoyed that at all. Initially, it was fantastic. There have been some compatibility problems which are ongoing, but that is a very first world problem. For the price that I'm paying for charging at home, I can kind of live with that. The next question is there one particular feature or characteristic of the vehicle which to this day you absolutely adore? Yes, that is a very easy question to answer. My accelerator pedal is the answer to that question. Now, a lot of Mini Electric owners love to drive in sport mode. I personally don't subscribe to that. I just think the alarming nature of what sport mode gives you is just phenomenal. It's eye-opening. It's blisteringly quick. It feels blisteringly quick because of how low to the ground I am. So I drive everywhere in green mode, which essentially is eco. And when I need to, I put it into sport, put my foot down, and I leave everything for dead. I absolutely love the acceleration, instant torque, no matter what speed you're driving at. Yeah, and then putting it into sport. Goodbye, everybody. I'll see you in my rearview mirror. Unreal. The next question is, surely the range has been a problem? I think that's a question. It ends with a question mark. This is a great opportunity for me to run through some stats with you. 0 to 62 miles an hour in 7.3 seconds. This vehicle has a 184 brake horsepower or 135 kilowatt motor, has 211 litres of boot space. We're going to come on to that. A 32.6 kilowatt hour gross battery pack or a 28.9 kilowatt hour usable battery pack in a T-shaped configuration. We'll come on to that as well. So Mini stated that this vehicle can do between 140 and 145 miles of range. This vehicle has a GOM, like all electric vehicles, a guessometer, which gives you a guess basically. But the best way to be able to understand how much range your vehicle actually has is using the miles per kilowatt hour number. My car has a record that I've set in this car of 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Multiply that by 28.9 kilowatt hour battery pack, gives me around 135 miles. That is not bad. I know it's 135 miles and I'm only going to get that in the summer, yes, but I've only now in November just started to see this decrease to 4.6. So this just shows you how efficient this car is. Furthermore, we don't talk enough about what happens when this car slows down. Everyone talks about range, how far can you go? It's a very, what happens when we move forward? But when we slow down and the car in one pedal drive mode specifically, basically harnesses as much energy as it can and sends it back to the battery when you're slowing down. So actually sometimes it's not necessarily about how far you can go, it's also about what happens when you're slowing down and recouping that energy and essentially topping the battery up. So that's kind of how I look at range. If you do longer distances, this is not the right car for you. If you need practicality, this is not the car for you. There's so much choice now in 2025 as opposed to 2022 that if this isn't the car for you, don't worry, there are other options. The next question is there a particular drive in your Mini Electric that you'll remember forever? Yes. I was in Daventry and I didn't think that was an actual place, I'll be honest, until I looked it up. The drive back from Daventry overnight on a very cold February winter night will be something that I'll remember forever. I actually only needed to use 2 charging apps, which was my Octopus Electroverse app on 2 of my charging stops, and then I cut across country into Yorkshire heading towards Harrogate where I used a Tesla supercharger. That was just like straight out of a film. I felt like I was being chased. Very sensible driving speeds, of course, but actually just the whole nature of the drive. This car just came alive. I was in all different drive modes using the different energy recuperation levels and just driving through the night with an amazing soundscape, an amazing kind of soundtrack using Spotify. I'll remember that journey forever. It was absolutely unbelievable. And I think that's probably the night when I really, really gelled with this car. The penultimate question is, what would you say to anyone considering a Mini Electric of this generation? Well, this is the F56 platform. It is compromised. The Mini Electric is compromised. That T-shaped battery pack that I mentioned earlier that runs right the way down the middle of the car and then underneath the back seats. This car was never designed from the ground up as an electric car. And you can kind of tell. It's still a Mini, it still has those real quirks. It still has all of the toggles and the buttons, and there's no space in the rear, and the boot is sometimes laughable. Pretty hilarious, actually. But I just think that despite its flaws, it has character and it has personality. Drive one, have it for 24 hours, and you will think with your heart rather than your head. This is something that gives me so much joy every time I jump inside this car. And as I said, despite its sometimes really big headaches, I kind of love it for that. And I think that's probably why, because it's rough around the edges, why I've kind of loved it so much. And the final question is, what's next? Well, it looks like potentially I'm going to be given a car for work. So it could be the company car scheme potentially, which sounds so boring considering like what this car has given me. here's the thing. So because of the amount of miles that I've done in this car, I've exceeded the amount of miles from the original contract. If I take this to its 4-year point in May 2026, it's going to need another service, which granted I paid for, but still it's going to need another service. The excess mileage charges, every time I jump inside this car, I'm paying money to drive it. It just doesn't make sense anymore. I'm past the VT point now, so the voluntary termination point, which means that I've now got options. And now that I'm being offered a car at work, I think it's time to say goodbye to this car. And that's why this whole video is both a funeral and a love letter all at the same time. So what's next? It has to be electric. It has to be electric because that's what I do. That's what I love, of course. But yeah, I'm going to be really, really sad to see this car go. And watching this video back, now that it's edited and all done and you're watching it at home, I'm going to be sad every time I see this, but still joyous at the fact that I got the opportunity to own the best car I've ever had. I've had a Citroen Saxo, I've had 3 Fiestas, 2 Audi A1s, a petrol version of this car, essentially, not this particular powertrain, but the Mini Cooper Exclusive, which is what it was called, and then this. Everyone says that you remember your first time, and like, there is no going back. If I won the lottery right now, I would put the numbers on, I would win the lottery, I would buy this car right now and own it forever and ever and ever and ever. I just would. That's the kind of impact that this car has had. I absolutely love it. So despite this not being a thing for much longer, electric is next. And yeah, you're not going to see me switching back. Thank you so much for watching this video. And as you can probably already tell, I'm a little bit heartbroken, the fact that I'm having to give this car back and move on to something else. What this car has given me is unlike any other vehicle that I've ever owned. It's that hilarity, it's that personality, that character, despite its flaws. No car is ever perfect. We're never looking for a perfect car. Because if it was perfect, it'd just be boring. This car with its lack of space and practicality and buttons where I can't really see, and the display is tiny and offset to the left-hand side, which does my head in every single day. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. And I will be putting the lottery on, and I will be trying to buy this car, and I want to own this car forever. And if I win the lottery at some point in the future, I'll be hunting the owner down and wanting to say, look, this is my car. I want this car back. That's how strongly I feel about it. But it's just been an incredible experience. And hopefully some of these numbers and some of the things that I've talked about today will give you that opportunity to consider the F56 MINI Electric for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you've liked this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.